this is Sarah with Flights of Fancy, and I'm coming to you here from our local dog park. Here's Devin on my back, and today our project is going to be sculpting clay again, because I've literally been dreaming about doing these sculpting clay experiments that I've been seeing online, and I just had to try a few for myself. One didn't turn out, and the other one came up pretty neat, so I hope you enjoy them. I made plenty more off camera, so I'll be sure to include those pictures. There's going to be a leaf cane, which I was talking about earlier, and that's the one that didn't come out, and also an eye cane for whatever uses you might have eyes for, I guess. I thought of a few things. One of them's pretty creepy, which is hilarious. Papa. Where's Papa? So I really hope you enjoy the sculpting clay experiments, and I'm calling them experiments because some came out and some didn't, but they're very informative, and they're just the kind of thing that you should be doing just for fun. Not everything you create has to be perfect, because it's all practice until you come out with something that is awesome, and that's how art works.
Hey Fancy fans, this go around I filmed my project in 4K, so it's a bit of a struggle to edit, but I'm very excited to see how it comes out. As you can see here, I'm rolling out and cutting my little pieces into rectangles, and then I'm putting them together just so that when you fold them and then roll them up, you'll get a really nice color gradient. And I'm going from brown to dark green to light green to gold. I feel like I have one too many colors though. I would have left out the brown so that you can see the veins of the leaf more clearly. But, it's an experiment. I want to see how many things I can do. I think I need to do a little more research. I'm doing this very awkwardly, but you can't tell in the end. And this rolling out process, as I said before, it just takes a little more elbow grease, but if I think I do it any more times, I'm gonna go ahead and get that dang pasta roller that's specifically for this kind of clay, because it's just heck on my wrists. So I'll try to get through this really fast, fold and roll and fold and roll. I went into a little more detail in my previous video, so we can either refer back to that, or somebody who does clay for all of their videos, but I haven't seen a video where they do it by hand. So if you just want to try this once or twice and do it by hand, just do it between two pieces of plastic, and it takes a little longer, but you'll get the job done. And here I'm rolling it out lengthwise, and I'm going to fold it into an accordion here in a sec. So my gradient, instead of going from the center out, we're going to go from side to side. And that'll make a sense here in a second. It's without using the pasta roller, your clay comes out a little bit thick, thin, but just do your best. And since it's a leaf, it's going to be natural, and you want the gradient to come out, not perfect in any case. So here I got it all folded up, and I'm squaring it off and kind of pinching it into a circle. You want to make sure there's no air bubbles in there, and that all of the clay is very well made into one piece. You don't want your little slivers of clay coming apart in this next step. If your clay is not gradiated, if you say you just had a chunk of green, you can slice it diagonally and then cut it in half and flip one side, and then you have some veins facing up and some veins facing up the other direction in a V. But with the gradient, I have to do one side and then the other side. It's a little more work, although I just realized as I was editing this that you could cut your chunk of clay in half and flip it, and then do the veins on a diagonal and flip it again, and then insert the center vein, but I didn't think of that. So I did one side, or I did the center, and then I did one side, and then then I did the other side. It's kind of a lot of work, but it comes out so beautifully. And here you can see I did the sort of double center vein technique. And the inside of it is the sparkly gold, which really gives it a lot of flair. And then you just sort of roll and pinch. And in this case, I'm rolling it out into a square or a diamond shape so that in the end you have a elongated leaf that's pointy at the top and at the bottom. But just while you're rolling it out small, it's a square. And then when you go to cut your little leaves, you just pinch it into a leaf shape. You pinch the sides in and leave the top and bottom pointy, if that makes sense. And I thought I was being very clever by rolling this piece in this iridescent clay. It rolled out kind of weird, which should have made me suspicious. But it has these little annoying sparkle flakes in it that cause the clay to be sort of weirdly, like not very malleable. And also when you slice through it, it leaves drag marks. And so I was so mad. This basically ruined my cane that I worked so hard on because, well, it worked a little bit better once the clay cooled off because it's quite warm and malleable from sculpting and molding it with my hands. Once I set it aside for a little while and cut it again, it sliced slightly better, but it still left drag marks. So as you can see, this cane did not turn out. They're just smooshed and drag marky, and it was a bummer. But these things happen in art, and they're learning experiences, and yeah, they're a bummer. You work so hard, but you learn so much from them. And so I just cut up a couple pieces, and I marbled them into little forest green sparkly little beads, and they look pretty cool. I think, once I bake them, they'll have those little translucent little hunks, and here I am. I decided, since that didn't work out, I'm going to make an eyeball cane. And so I used some of my leaf cane, since it's a really pretty eyeball color, in this next project. So I put a little chunk of black in the iris color, so I have the pupil and the iris. And then I cut it again, and I put a long little piece of white in it, and that's like the eye sparkle point. Probably could have combined those a little better. They kind of got a little long, so it looks like I have kind of a long pupil, but that's okay. And roll out some white and put the white around, and I made it sort of elongated, so it looks like a eye with eyelids around it, not literally an eyeball. Cut it away so it's kind of nice and sharp. So then I used my skin color of choice, and I sandwiched it with black to make eyelashes. And since my eyeball was getting kind of bigger than I meant for it to, I should have had less layers of eyelash, because they really they were too thin and too dense, so they didn't really I think they appeared a little bit as eyelashes, but you really have to squint depending on how small you roll your cane, and then slice a little eyeball off of it. I cut the top off there because the top eyelid would sort of cover the iris a little bit. And then I decided to outline the whole thing in black, so it's like you have black eye makeup on. And then put the eyelash part over that. I decided to do top and bottom. But as you can see, it's going to start getting a little bit muddy by the time you roll it up small. And then you take the skin color of choice, and you put more on the tops and bottoms and hardly any on the sides, and that way when you roll it out into a tube, the eyeball stays eyeball shaped theoretically. It got a little warped as you went. The smaller you went, a little more off it was, but I think that's just the nature of cane. It always comes out a little unique. Each slice is just a tad bit different than the last slice, and that's the fun of it. And here I am, I'm like, oh, I've got little slices of eye. What do I do with little slices of eyeball cane? Well, you make an eyeball bead, naturally. This thing is gonna be so creepy. Oh, I don't know why this amused me so much. Put a nice big hole in it. Okay, here's a more straightforward thing to do. Make a face. So I made a little sort of portrait here. The other year I had green hair, and I think I'll go back to that next time I decide to go in and have my hair done. I like to have it sort of this mottled, natural-ish hair color mixed in with the green hair color. And here's some of my other canes that I made off camera, including the Seahawks one. Yay, go Hawks! All right, have fun, everybody.
So we'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe and have a great time arting.
Oh, they just run into each other?